Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I started.
Okay. Okay. Let's start meeting. First for the overall status, we have to finish review all the 1.14 candidate issues and clear all of them. That is for 1.14. And another thing is we will reach the FC phase in about 2 weeks. So let's just focus our tasks that due for 1.14 and complete them by FC. That is for the overall status. And now some individual update. So Daniel, please.
Yeah, I was working on an issue assigned to me about adding more snapshot detail into the restore describe. Originally, we thought we can leverage the volume info in the backup for such information, but during the implementation, I found that it's not very sufficient because the PV and PVC may be renamed by the resource modifier during restore. So I'm exploring to introduce the volume info to the restore and working on POC and design. This put this issue a little risky in 1.14. I'll try to finish POC and the design by the early next week before the holiday in China and give you more update. But currently, this is a little risky. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And Xin, please.
I'm working on the data-only restore design and the merging CSI plugin into Velero pull request.
I just want to highlight this merging CSI plugin issue to the Red Hat folks. This may introduce some break change, and there may be some tricky situation in upgrade. Just want to highlight that. And you may want to.
1.14.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So are we also removing the flag, or that's not part of this?
No, we're not removing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
This will be like internal Velero plugin then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So user will not need to install the CSI plugin.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I know there was one. I know we had some discussions around removing the flag, and I think the concern was because right now the flag is used not just to signal that it's enabled, but it's also used to turn it on so that you're using it instead of native snapshots, for example. And if we remove the flag, we need to replace it with something else that was equivalent to the flag. So users could still make that decision as to I want to use CSI versus I don't. So I think that makes sense for now, just to leave it's no longer serving as a feature flag, I guess. It's more like a enabling functionality, but since the flag exists, we've been using it for several releases. It's probably easier to stick with the known flag rather than create a new flag that would essentially work the same way. But yeah, Shubham, I don't know that we'd on an upgrade point of view, it would be just more a question of we would need to make sure that we remove the CSI plugin on the ODP upgrade. But other than that, it sounds like once it's installed, the behavior is basically the same. It's just you're not adding that plugin anymore. But it should work the same as it is now from an API point of view beyond adding the plugin.
Yeah, I think we just have to remove the init container post upgrade. Yeah,
the container and also and the ODP side for enabling it. Right. But basically we'll get rid of that and then.
Anyway, thanks for the heads up.
Yep.
Okay. So, Xin, anything else?
No more.
Okay, thanks. I'm still working on the data model microservice design, and currently I have finished the POC, and I'm currently writing the design, and I'll let you know and review once the design is completed. And then Shubham, please.
Yeah, I updated the extend volume policies design and basically added the usage of a volume helper interface. Daniel suggested me to add an interface. So maybe you guys could take a look and get on with the implementation PR as soon as possible.
Yeah. Yes. So I think hopefully it doesn't block you from implementing it. And yeah, if you see any issue meeting the FC, please let us know. Either we can help or we can, delay the FC a little bit.
Yeah, maybe if you guys could take a quick look today or tomorrow on the design.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will do.
Thank you.
Okay, so it means there is some more changes, and besides that, all the comments has been resolved, right?
I think so.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we can review the new adding ones, and then we can merge it.
Thank you.
Okay. Then Jimmy, please.
I'm working on the fixing snapshot leak and added fast fail support. Please help me review the PR. That is from my side.
Okay. And Danfeng, please.
I'm working on Windows 14 test cases and test plans, and also some end-to-end tests to automate. That's all.
Okay, thanks. And Wenkai, please.
Yeah, I'm working on an issue to improve the concurrence of PVBs for different ports, and will some PRs this week. That's all.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that's for the status update. Now some discussion topics. So first one from Daniel. Daniel, please.
Yeah, I was asking about the issue about 1.9 AWS plugin working on IBM Cloud Storage. This seems a tester from Red Hat, I think his name is Matthews, mentioned that he made this too. I was wondering, is that possible that we can, engage the tester from Red Hat to test IBM Cloud earlier, like before the 1.9 Enterprise plugin was released. But it seems that Matthews offered to help after the issue was opened. Is that correct? Based on Tiger's comment.
Yeah, basically what happened was we saw the issue was opened. I was looking at the comments and realized that it could be an issue for us too. So that's why I was asked if anyone, Red Hat had an IBM cluster ready to test with, and so Matthias did have one ready it was available that he could use. So he was able to confirm that this problem is happening in his environment, his IBM clustered environment as well.
I see. So yeah, because you're not part of IBM, right? I just realized. So would that be easier that you can somehow work more closely with IBM Cloud developer to debug? Because it seems like a compatibility issue on the IBM side currently, from my point of view. But based on my discussion with the original author of the issue, the progress is a little slow. If you can, work with IBM Cloud developer more closely, maybe we can accelerate this.
Yeah, Shiba, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of any specific kind of team level context that we have. I don't know if you've worked with anyone, or if anyone on the team has directly with IBM Cloud. I know
so we have some IBM QE folks. Maybe I'll try to reach out and see
that'd
they're
be good,
hitting this issue. Yeah.
Because I know we do test our own bug fixes in IBM Cloud. So since this is the main reason we haven't seen this yet is that 1.9 came out with 1.13, and OADP is not yet upgraded to 1.13. We're still on 1.12, so that's why we haven't seen it yet. I expect we probably would have seen this on our IBM Cloud testing if we were on 1.13, but because this is a new change, because I guess it's a V2 API we're using now, and it sounds like there, as Daniel said, there sounds like from reading the comments, there seems to be an incompatibility with the V2 API with IBM Cloud, but that's really all I know is from when I read on the issue. But yeah, that's why we hadn't seen it in our QE testing, is because we aren't testing with this yet.
Yeah, if you look at the comment by Wayne, it seems that there's an AWS suffix to the access ID, which is interesting. I'm not sure how IBM Cloud, generate that, and somehow the suffix was added and caused some authentication issue.
Okay, we'll let you know, Daniel, if we
Thank you.
reach out to some cloud engineer from IBM. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Thanks all. And the next one is from Xin. Xin, please.
Yeah. There was some discussion about this state-only restore feature, and at first, the design used the generic data path to create a new volume and restore volume data into that new volume. But after some discussion, the design changed how to do that, and from the generic data path to the pod volume restore way. That is to implement in a in-place fashion. So I want to discuss whether this we can reach agreement. This is the right direction to implement the data-only restore. And if we scroll down, we can see new comments from Anshu, and he seems has a little concern about this way, and he proposed to also implement the CSI based in place restore. And it seems the pod restart during the data-only restore is also a concern. But I'm still not sure what is the reason, and what do you guys think?
Yeah, it's also confusing to me because his concern is about pod downtime, but with the CSI snapshot-based in-place restore, because you need to detach and recreate the PVC, there's still some pod downtime. I don't quite understand his point, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, as I understand, the point, at least for the CSI side, is that, obviously we can't update a CSI volume, like you said, without taking the pod down, because the only way to do it is to delete the PVC and recreate it.
Right.
But at the same time, I think the point is that his point here, and I think I would agree with it, is that whether it's part of this or it's soon after this, having a way within Velero to handle that, because even if it's not an in-place, live updating with a currently running system, you may want to shut that down anyway for applications if you're changing the file system, while it's running. But basically, if we don't implement this, the only way to handle this is for users to manually go and delete their pods and delete their PVCs and then restore them again. And so if we had some solution, if this could handle, shut down the pod, delete the PVC, recreate the PVC, start that, I think that's what he's asking for here. I don't know if that makes sense as part of the same functionality, or would it be a different functionality? But I guess another point here is, given the sort of intent to move in the direction of CSI away from file system backup, adding new functionality that only applies to file system backup, when people are going to be using more CSI, then might not be the best use of resources there. But if we can find a way to, even if they're not 100% equivalent, and I think I got a point in the chat, is that if the file system approach is still going to require some downtime, if you need to shut an application off and so that you don't get inconsistent reads or something while you're messing with the file system, the only difference is the CSI approach would probably have somewhat longer downtime, but you're not comparing 0 to some big number. It's two different numbers there. So the end result would be similar, even if the mechanism is different.
But
yeah.
But the approach proposed by Anshu, that's essentially revert the decision for the in-place restore. So if that's I mean detaching PVC and create a new one, it looks like you're essentially creating a new pod, right, with the same image but different PVC.
Not necessarily new pod, but you do need to shut. I mean, well, no, I guess it is new because when you shut down a pod, then you. I know, for example, if you're working with a deployment, you would just set replicas. You could set replicas to 0, and the pod would shut down. You would recreate the PVC, and then you could set it to 1 again. I mean, that's just one way of doing it. I don't know how. I'm just saying that. But yeah, it would be a new pod because you have to shut the pod down, which means you have to recreate the pod. So I don't know. But that would only be for CSI. That wouldn't. I imagine you would not do that in the file system backup approach. For those volumes.
Yeah, and for me, I'm also still not understanding what is the benefit from the user scenario, or for example, what kind of a user scenario they want this, because even we use in-place file system way to restore some files or all the files in the volume, it can also cover the case that we want to restore in the in-place way for the entire volume, and that also covers the CSI volumes, right? CSI is somehow backed up volumes. So it
would only work for CSI if you had a copy of backup of that. But if you're just using CSI, you don't have a copy of backup. So the only thing you have is a snapshot. If all you have is a snapshot, the only thing you can do is create a new volume from that.
Yeah. So from user scenario, the only requirement for this is like, okay, I have a CSI scenario backup, and I don't have data more, don't have file system backup, so I want to in place restore something, right? This is a requirement for this.
Yeah, but in my understanding, I mean, the CSI approach is not in place. It's like you do a restore, and before that you delete the deployment or pod along with the PVC, so that you restore what's missing. That's the pod and the PVC, which is restored from snapshot, right? So that's not in place, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean that's what he says. It's not a pure in place, literally. But the effect is equivalent in the sense that, oh, I have this application, this pod running with this wrong, corrupted version of the file. So I want Velero to make it look like the backup, which means it would need to remove the PVC and pod and restore those basically.
So I think the biggest decision we need to make is I see these completely different approaches. So whether we focus on the CSI or snapshot based, partial restore, or we focus on the file system in place restore, I think these are two approaches to solve the problem and two scenarios.
Right. I mean, they're definitely different scenarios, but we've also run into other scenarios and other issues that have come up where we've pointed at, oh, well, the answer to that is here. So for example, one of the things that Tiger was working on, where we were talking about the delete and recreate resources, we had agreed with to close that design because the resource we cared the most about was PVCs, and that was going to be handled with this. So I think because we just kind of we decided to put those two use cases here, we need a solution to the CSI. And then another one came up. There was an issue, GitHub issue. Someone pointed out that if you're restoring, and again, I don't know whether this solves it or not, but there was an issue that came out that if we restore a PVC that doesn't have a pod, with CSI, currently, if your storage class is wait for first consumer, it doesn't actually work properly because you don't bind the PVC until the pod gets
No.
there, so there's no pod. So
Right.
and I think there was a comment on that issue saying that this use case should handle that. So I don't know that it does necessarily, but if we need to make it handle it, then that also goes back to somehow handling the CSI aspect.
Mm.
But the other problem is if you're going to handle that situation with no pod, so, again, we haven't resolved that. That would require additional work beyond what's in this design. I would think that might be a phase 2. I don't know. I'm just, I don't know how important that use case is. I just know that in that other issue, Shubham linked to it. You know, we'd said, hey, we think this will handle it, but you know, right now we're looking at it and it may not handle it.
Yeah, file system-based backup still needs a pod to mount the volume. So
Right. And if your storage class isn't configured to wait for first consumer, then you don't need the pod, it'll restore fine. But some storage classes, you know, the reason for wait for first consumer is if you have a cluster where some volumes are only available on some nodes and not other nodes, then you want to wait till you have a pod. And so we know what node the pod's is scheduled on, so that we make sure that we get a PV that's available on that node. Whereas if you bind immediately, if your storage is not available in every node of the cluster, you could end up with pods that can't be scheduled.
Yeah,
So that's why this binding mode exists. But if you set that binding mode, then currently data movement or CSI will not restore the content if there's not a pod that's restored with that volume.
Yeah, for this, for the current issue, I mean this issue, I think this one we can fix. In the from the on the data side directly. I mean for the exposure, so I think we don't need to link this issue
Okay,
with
I mean,
the
if we want to take that approach, that makes sense. Kind of simplify it. I just there was a comment there. I forget who made the comment that was saying that this was by design, and then we probably should wait for the other. But if we want to handle this issue separately, that makes sense. That's fine, and then we can not talk about it now in terms of this other issue.
Okay. For this design, I think okay, we have two directions and two different implementations, totally different implementation. And for the first direction, from me, it's more like a file system level granular restore. That is, we just restore some data, file system, some granular data, not the entire volume. Yes, we can do that for the entire volume, but we can also do that for part of the files in volume. That is the first direction. But yes, that direction will not cover the case that there is no data movement or no data in the object store. And the other direction is like overwriting existing PV but use the old pod. So the question for me is that do we need to make all of them in the current design, or we have two directions, and we just have two requirements and we have two design or implementation?
Yeah, in my opinion, these are two scenarios. We cannot use the same interface to solve these two problems. They are so different, in my opinion. I mean, the goal is similar, that user don't wanna. I mean, user wanna restore part of the data in the PV, but the scenario is quite different, and the solution is also different, in my opinion. So I think in the discussion, I think a few weeks ago in the US community meeting, I was thinking the consensus is in place restore, which is as we propose in the file system base. But if the CSI snapshot is a higher priority, we will need to rethink. And I think the challenge is similar to what we see in the replace existing resource policy, which is the pod may be managed by some other controller, and if we only handle the pod, there will be some race conditions. I think that's the tricky part of the solution, right? So what do you think, Scott? Do you think CSI snapshot or the file system based partial restore, which is more like a major problem you want to handle?
Yeah, I mean, I do see those as kind of both. I don't know that I see one as much more than the other. I haven't had a lot of direct customer contact on this issue, so I'm not really sure on the ODB side whether one of those is significantly more important to us than the other. I don't know if Shubham or Tiger has any more specific, background or from calls or whatever as to know whether the ability to delete and recreate PVCs that would work for all volume types is more important, or whether the kind of the more limited, well, it's more limited in terms of FFS backup, but also more flexible in terms of what you do with it as the in-place, side. So, I mean, I said from a functionality point of view, those are obviously very different things. From an API user experience point of view, we could make those kind of similar, but they're not going to be identical because the configuration would and options would be different. So, but yeah, I don't know that I have a clear answer in terms of which one is more important for ODP right now. I don't know if anyone else from Red Hat here has a better idea.
We don't have any stats as of now.
No.
Well, yeah, like what's in the production, like who is using more CSI snapshots and FS backups. In my personal experience, I have seen both the methods being used interchangeably as well. Uh, so uh, the in-place restore, right? This won't work for CSI data mover, correct?
Data move and the file system backup.
It will work for CSI data mover.
Yes, I think it worked for the data more, right?
If that's the case, then I think we should be good, right? At least you
Oh,
are covering.
yeah. In other words, if we can get it, I mean, I guess for data mover would be a little bit trickier on the implementation side, just because normally with data movement we end up doing that copy or restore to that temporary volume and then going through the CSI snapshot side, and so in the in-place version we would want to do a direct copy to the file system, so that would be different than what we currently do for restore. But if that can be in scope for this functionality, and so then we could say this will work for both data movement and file system backup.
Yeah.
And the only thing it doesn't work for is native snapshots and CSI snapshots without data movement. I think that's a reasonable limitation.
Yeah, and in my personal experience as well, I think more and more folks want data movement off cluster data, not
I mean,
local
now that we have
snapshots.
data mover,
Yeah,
I'm hoping to get to the point where very few users are going to use CSI without data movement, because there's not really a lot of, I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense now that we have data movement as an option. I also don't know how many people are still using the volume snapshotters instead of CSI. But again, I know for AWS clusters, the default storage classes are all now CSI based. So we should have full support for CSI. And I'm less clear on the other cloud providers in terms of the need for the volume snapshotter versus CSI. But again, I think in this, if we can get this to work for data movement and file system backup in both of those use cases, I think that probably covers enough that we can say, at least for the first release.
But the data movement, I mean the data movement works because currently we are using file system.
Yes.
Yeah, but right now we don't. But right now it's different because with data movement we don't copy directly to the file system.
PVC,
aren't we copying to that temporary and then creating the CSI snapshot? But obviously in this functionality it would be different. Because we're intending to say, hey, you already have a volume here. It's got data on it. We want to update that based on what's in the copy repository. So it should be able to work for data movement and for file system backup, but it might, the actual implementation is going to be a little bit different for those two, possibly because of that way we handle that. But maybe not. Maybe it just works seamlessly, easy enough there. I'm just not as clear on that.
Yeah, I think if CSI data movement is included, then that's the sweet spot, and we can
Yeah.
have a
Yep.
different design
Yep.
for local CSI snapshots in
But
place.
CSI data mover, my concern is that conceptually, we know that works because we know data movement is file system based, in my opinion, and I mean the data mover for a public cloud user, they probably will not use the data mover, right? So that means this data only restore, if you choose this path, and this will not work for the public cloud users. Because
Yeah, I think
they thought they don't need a data mover because the cloud provider will do the data movement. But then because of this, they cannot use this data only restore, which we declare that works also for CSI snapshot. I think this will cause some confusion. I think if we choose the in place restore, probably we wanna stick with this scenario that is file system only. If we wanna see the CSI snapshot either local or involve data mover has to be covered, I think we need to rethink the solution. Maybe we need to revert back to the pod recreation flow. But I'm just thinking right now. I haven't thought about this before. So
yeah, about the data more, I think more accurate speaking is like it support without building data more, because for we support plugin data more, right? We don't know, we don't know what the other kind of data mover is doing. So this capability is based on their own capability of the data mover. So we can only say that without building data mover.
Yeah, that's just
it supports
documentation, right?
Yeah, and on the other hand, I think that it is enough because we cannot to control other data movers' behavior, right? So I think it is enough. And back to Daniel's question about what is it like for public cloud users. So personally, I think even the public for this feature, we can make the situation like this or comment like this. For this feature, I mean the in-place restore feature. If you want to use this feature for CSS data mover, you want to use this feature for CSS data, you have to enable data mover. So it means a public cloud user possibly they don't need to enable data mover all the time. They need some time, but not all the time. But if they want to use that feature, they must enable the CSS data mover. I think that is not a contradiction. That's just acceptable by the public cloud user as well. That's from my current thinking.
I think we need to discuss this offline, because if you go back to Andrew's proposal, I'm thinking he's trying to propose we should go to the pod recreation workflow. But if you think the flow, that pod recreation workflow, if we can do that right, that can cover both file system backup and the CSS snapshot with or without data move. Yeah, but I think the challenge for that is how can we handle the pod recreation correctly.
Yeah,
if you can handle that right, that can cover all the scenarios, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah,
that's not in place.
That's where it gets complicated because you have different pod scenarios. You know, is this pod in deployment? Is it in a something else? Is it a cron? And then if it's a deployment, you can't just delete the pod because then it gets redeployed. So you have to scale down the deployment. I mean, so there's all sorts of weird things that happen if you're talking about pods that you'd have to figure out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for the other direction, we will lose the functionality like the file system level granular resolve. I don't know which one is more requiring by users. So,
With the file system approach, we can even extend it later to restoring particular files, right?
yeah, that all we
So I
call
think
granular file
that
system
should be
resolve.
that should be a good pro for that approach.
Yeah,
Whenever
and
we
again, I think
decide,
if we can do that in a way that works with the built-in data mover and in file system backup, that makes some sense. Well, I guess with the obvious caveat, the file by file approach is not going to work if you're using volume block mode because we treat this file system as a single file there. But for other modes, for regular file systems, then yeah, because I know we've definitely had people asking, "Hey, I want to restore just these files, just this file," and that would require something based on file system backup.
Right. But yeah, I don't think we can make the decision here in this meeting. I think we need a bit more offline discussion. But I think we want to make sure we reach consensus. Either approach we choose, we should continue with that instead of we do try to implement one way but later switch to the other. I think we want to avoid that. So yeah.
Yes. Okay. I think we can continue the discussion for this offline, and maybe we can, if we have more things, we can discuss this for the next committee meeting. Okay, thanks. And I think we are done for all the different topics. Anything else we want to
sorry,
discuss?
I have one thing. Just want to check with you guys. So the last week, I heard from Daniel that the guys cannot join the community meeting. I mean the Zoom meeting without the host join. So is that still happening today? Anyone face that issue?
No, I was able to join.
Okay, thank you.
So probably we're good for the US time zone next week, right?
Yeah, I think so. But
yeah, I mean, we still need to have someone from VMware start as a host and then send change the host, or is that still the case for?
Yeah, I think I used to check with the colleague, I mean, in Broadcom who hosts this meeting. I mean, who is the owner created this meeting. He told me that the Broadcom's policy does not allow assign non-Broadcom employee as a host for the Zoom meeting. So that's why we didn't add you, I mean, Scott and Siobhan into the host list for this meeting. So currently, if there are no Broadcom's employee join this meeting, so we cannot have a host and recording that. So that's a problem. I know last week you guys have proposed to use the Kubernetes Zoom for the community meeting. I also talked with that my colleague on that. He said he need to check with that if that I mean if that is a possible solution that Broadcom allowed us to do that. Till now, I didn't get the response from him. Hopefully, we can get some answers in the next few days.
I mean, in the example kind of situation where nobody from Broadcom is on the call, where we don't have a host and then we can't record, that's exactly the kind of meeting where you need the recording, because that means no one at Broadcom was there, which means all the rest of the Velero maintainers, if they want to know what was discussed at the meeting, might want to look at the recording, which won't be there. So that's the kind of problem, that one of the problems that we're trying to fix there. I mean, I understand
Understood.
you're waiting to hear an answer back. I'm glad you started that process, because I think that is a reasonable approach to take if you can find a way to navigate the rules around that to make it happen.
Yeah, I
think
totally understand that situation. I think the remaining problem is the recording the meeting, right? Without the Broadcom employee here.
But I think there's one enhancement. I mean, improvement is that. I mean, last week, Scott, I think you guys joined, but you need to wait for me to join to really start the meeting. But next week, I think that won't happen. Even I or Wenkai do not join the meeting, you guys can start the community meeting and use the Zoom session without the host. So,
Yeah, that might have been the host setting that you had fixed, because in the past that was never a problem before. But certainly in the immediate short term, that's fine. In the long term, we need to make sure that we have the ability to get every community meeting recorded, because that's kind of part of that's part of the way this community works, is that the meetings are open for anyone, and if you miss the meeting, they're all going to be uploaded, and you can follow along on your own time. Even just our side, like, oh yeah, we discussed that topic last week. I'm working on my design doc now. Let me go check the recording, because I forget what was said. Even if I was at the meeting, I still might want the recording to refresh my memory on something if I'm working on a design relating to something we agreed to.
Yeah, understand, Scott.
Also, I think
we are trying to find some approach. I mean, possible approach to fix that. So, but I think we still need some time to know the policy and the possible way.
But before that, Jolly, I think you can ask Dan that, tell him he has to join the community meeting. Is that possible to start the recording at least?
I used to talk with him about this. At that time, he told me he will join and help to host this. But the reality is he didn't attend every time, right? So
so if he cannot join, he can let us know. So someone from Beijing team can join and start the recording. So I think with this the situation, Scott worried that no one from Broadcom joining, no one's recording the session, should be really rare. If we then can confirm he will join in future, and just in case he cannot, he will tell us to join. I think most of the case will be covered, right?
Yeah, that's a approach. We can discuss with him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, I think we had some recordings missing.
I saw the comments on Slack. Those just hadn't been uploaded yet. It looks like Dan responded,
okay.
and he started those. They're probably there now. He said he was uploading both of those meetings that were not up yet.
Okay,
he was at KubeCon, so he didn't get a chance to upload those because he was away for that.
No worries.
Yeah. Dan last week is was at KubeCon. Yeah. So the current let me check. So the latest session uploaded in the YouTube is March 19. So yeah.
Those are the two. Because I think the latest was the 5th earlier today, but those are the two that because I know Tiger pinged him on Slack, and I believe he responded to that and did upload both of those meetings.
Yeah, I will let him know this, and we will discuss what is the best way we can handle this.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. And anything else? Then okay. I think we can complete the meeting here today. Thanks for joining. Have a good day and a good evening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.